morning. Welcome to Law Power Hour. It's a little bit wet out there today, a little bit cold, but we'll deal with the weather, and we've got a lot to deal with in terms of the law. First and foremost, November the 17th, at the Considine Center, it's got a sign on the front door there. It says Cleary College now, or Cleary University. It's next to the Little Rock Baptist Church, downtown on Woodward. We're having a program. We're having a program with a number of people who've appeared on this show. And it's going to be a legal fair where you can come in and get free legal advice. Free legal advice. All the questions you have, we've got people there who can answer your questions in all the areas of the law that are important areas of the law. Technical areas of the law, like copyright, patent law, we can't answer because those are areas that require special licenses for lawyers in those areas. Tax lawyers will not be there because tax information requires special training and background. But general information in both fields, in copyright, trademark, there'll be lawyers present who will give the general information. We're going to have criminal lawyers there. We're going to have lawyers who specialize in workers' disability compensation, lawyers who specialize in bankruptcy, lawyers who specialize in forming corporations, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, expungement. Come down. There'll be refreshments. There'll be lots of literature that you can take home, you can read, you can contact the lawyers, ask them questions, get answers to your questions, get assistance if you need it, so that you can get on the right track with the things that are really important to you. And the reason I mention this is, our show is proactive. We're proactive to the extent that we talk about providing service to people instead of just marketing services and not performing. Now, every week, as I told you, there's a number of people that come on the show as guests, and I've been doing it myself now and then because, like today, guest decided for some reason or another that he or she couldn't make it. So I'm happy to be here and talk to you. Call in if you have questions. We'll answer your questions throughout the hour. But most important of all, I want you to come down on November the 17th. I want you to come down. If you haven't had an opportunity to thoroughly discuss whether you're entitled to an expungement, come down. There'll be people there to explain to you the ins and outs of expungement. If you need to get information on automobile injury cases, on no-fault, whether you're eligible for no-fault benefits, there'll be lawyers there who will explain to you what your rights are under the law. If you need assistance with Social Security disability, there will be people there who are qualified, lawyers who are qualified, and paralegals to assist you and explain to you how to file for Social Security disability. There'll be lawyers to cover every area and aspect of the law. We want you to come down. We want you to participate with us. We're there to serve you. We're there to give you information. Throughout the year, we put on a lot of different programs. We talk about a lot of different subjects. And as I pointed out a couple weeks ago, I'm always amazed. I'm always amazed that people call me on the telephone throughout the week and ask me questions because they're not proactive. They're not preparing. They're not preparing their lives. And they don't listen. They don't get the answers that they want. So they don't do anything about their needs. And if they're proactive, if you're just proactive, you're going to save a lot of time and money and a lot of aggravation in life. I'm going to give you an example of a young lady who's proactive. She was injured at work. They told her to go on short-term disability and family medical leave instead of applying for workers' compensation. So she called my office. She said she was injured when she was moving a patient. She was a nurse's assistant working in a nursing home, and her and another individual attempted to move a 350-pound person out of bed. And she injured her shoulder. She tore a ligament in her shoulder. So they put her on short-term disability, family medical leave, and she should have been on workers' compensation. So she called me. She said, do I have to treat with my employer's doctor? And the answer is yes for the first 28 days. She said, I can't do my job and I have to be off work. I said, can you work at all? She said, no, I need shoulder surgery. So I said, okay, if you can't work, you're entitled to workers' compensation, but I've got to point out a few things to you. Do you use or take any illicit drugs? In other words, you smoke marijuana. Because if you smoke marijuana, you're not going to be eligible for workers' compensation, because during the first 28 days when you go for a physical, they're going to make you drop. And when you drop, if you're positive, your employer's not going to pay you. Do I have to file a claim to get my benefits? I said, yes, if you're going to be off more than 14 days, you get paid from the first day. If you're off more than 8 days, you get paid on the 8th day for workers' compensation. How much do I get paid? These are all legitimate questions that were being posed to me by this young lady. I said 80% of your after-tax wages. What does that include? That includes the value of your health care benefits, vacation, disability benefits that you'd receive from your employer, any bonuses if you're entitled to them. That's all computed into the average weekly wage. If my employer has a job for me, for example, she can't perform the job of a nurse's aide, but let's say they want me to be a receptionist, do I have to report to work? The answer is yes, if you're capable of working. Performing the work that you're capable of working, not injuring yourself again, is the requirement under the law. This is the kind of information you're going to get if you show up at our program. If you show up at our program, you want to know how to get Social Security, disability, or SSI benefits for your children, we're going to explain to you how to get those benefits. If you're an adult applying for benefits, we will explain to you in great detail what you must do to get those benefits. And if you're applying for SSI, supplemental insurance benefits, because you don't qualify for Social Security disability benefits, we'll explain to you what the procedures are. Just giving you a thumbnail sketch of what we're talking about. I know you see my thumb up there. That's the thumbnail sketch we're going to talk about. If you have a disability that has lasted or can be expected to last 12 months, and you've been off 6 months, you're entitled to file for Social Security disability. If you do not have a wage earning account, means that you haven't worked 5 out of the last 10 years, and you're not a widow or a widower drawing off a deceased adult's account at age 52, you can apply for SSI, but you have to prove that you have a disability that prevents you from performing any substantial gainful activity. Doesn't mean the last job you performed, it's any job. So you have to be proactive in this area. You have to go to the doctor. You have to treat. And if you have a condition that's going to result in a permanent impairment to your body, for example, you go to the doctor, you're working. The doctor says, you know, you got a problem with your kidneys now, you're going to have to go on dialysis. Automatically, you should be entitled to receive Social Security disability. Because dialysis requires you to have treatment at a bare minimum of 2 days, and more likely than not, 3 days a week. So if you have treatment 3 days a week, you're going to be away from the workforce 3 days a week and incapable of working. If you have cancer, automatically you should be entitled to benefits. So if you come down and you have questions, we're going to answer all these questions. I'm going to take a break for a second. I want you to call in and ask me questions.
Are you in legal trouble? Are you in need of legal advice? Or just have general legal questions? Call 1-800-529-8721. That's 1-800-LAW-USA1. And watch Law Power Hour and get your questions answered by experienced attorneys who are experts in their field. That's Law Power Hour, hosted by Barry Keller, attorney at law. Saturdays at 10 a.m. here on WHPR Detroit Live.
Back on that Social Security issue for a moment. If you have children or grandchildren who have special needs, God forbid, we hope they don't have special needs, but they need attendant care, they need help 24/7. They're eligible for Social Security disability. If you have children or grandchildren who are in special education, who are incorrigible. In other words, they have difficulty getting along with other children at school, teachers. They can't read, they can't write. They have difficulty in concentration. They have difficulty with their memory. They have difficulty in learning. They have learning disabilities. I'll make it real simple. We will tell you how you can get benefits for those children and how you can get assistance for them and get help for them to get them back on their feet. That's all part of the service that's going to be offered on the 17th, and that's a service that's available 24/7 by calling my firm or calling other competent lawyers who specialize in these fields, because that's what we're there for, to answer these questions for you, to assist you in getting these benefits. If you're charged with a crime, if you're charged with a crime or one of your loved ones is charged with a crime, we will have criminal lawyers there who will explain to you what your rights are under the law, under the United States Constitution. It's very difficult, very, very difficult for an individual to go through the criminal system without having assistance of counsel. The criminal justice system affords you a right to counsel. You can either have an appointed lawyer or you can retain a lawyer. And if you have an appointed lawyer, you're entitled to the same representation as you get if you have a retained lawyer. It can't be watered down. Options have to be explained. From the very beginning of the arrest process to either the conviction or the plea process, options have to be explained. And we go step by step by step and explain those to you. Someone has to sit down and explain to you what your charges are, what the consequences of the charges are in terms of being found guilty. And it's amazing the things that I learned. You know, I was talking to one of my clients the other day who I shall remain anonymous, but here's real simple. 30 years ago, he had a felony. Do you know that he did not know that he cannot own or possess a gun? And now, because he had an argument and they claim he was waving a gun, he's being charged as a felon in possession of a firearm. Convicted felons cannot own guns. It's against the law. It's against the state law and the federal law for a convicted felon to own a gun. Those are the kind of topics that we're going to talk about. Those are the issues that we're going to address. We're also going to address the issue of how to remove barriers, which is one of my favorite topics. How to remove barriers to employment, expungement, how to get your record cleared so that you can get a job, how to deal with a friend of the court so that you don't have liens facing you every day from the friend of the court, how to deal with your driver's privileges so that you can get your license back, get on your feet, and get a job. So there's a wealth of information that's going to be available to you if you come down. Ray Saloom will be there. He's a regular on the show. He'll be talking about bankruptcy, creditors' rights, how to deal with your creditors so that you can go through life and pay your bills or live. We'll even have somebody there to talk about scamming, because that was one of the issues that came up on our show. So we'd like you to come and participate with us. You know, the biggest problem we have today in society is the lack of participation. The biggest problem we have today is getting the information out. And that's why we have the show, because we try and get the information out. But we want you to come down and get it firsthand. November the 17th. It'll be next to Little Rock Baptist Church. I'll give you the address in a couple of weeks on the show to make sure that you show up. It'll be from 11 to 4. There'll be snacks there. There'll be attorneys there. There'll be literature there. No charges. Just come in and avail yourself. Man said to me the other day, well, what do you do when you have one of these programs? Do you lure the people in and then charge them for what they do? No. We're there to give information. And if you decide that you want to retain one of the attorneys that's there, that is between you and the attorney. This is an information-based program for your benefit to assist you. Just like Dr. Holly, when he's on the air, he gives lots of information. He's not charging for it. He's trying to educate people. He's trying to arouse their interest and get them involved in what they're doing so that they have a better life. Time and time again, I talk about what we have to do to put our life in order. And I know there's a whole grocery list of things that we have to do. The top of the grocery list is preparing a will. Do you know what the cost of a simple will is? $200. The cost of a power of attorney is $125. The cost of a medical power of attorney is $125. So for $450, you can have your legal affairs in order so that you know if you get sick, who's going to make decisions for you. So that you know if you get sick, who's going to make financial decisions for you. So that you know, God forbid, if you die, that your last rights are going to be respected. And that's the reason why you have to be proactive in these areas. Yesterday, I was talking to a woman over at one of the clinics that we run, and she was telling me she doesn't like any of her relatives. She has a number of pieces of property. She doesn't want to leave anything to any of them, so she doesn't know what to do. Well, I'm going to tell you something right now. She's got to do something. If she wants to give the property away, she's got to make decisions. If she doesn't do anything, she's going to have her relatives coming in and bone picking. So it's better to make decisions than have the bone pickers come in. And you heard Yeah, I called them the bone pickers, come in and take the meat off the bones and leave the bones there after somebody dies. Remember a couple weeks ago I gave you an example of that, where this nice lady made a will in 1999, but she didn't put any provisions in there for her sons who were living with her, and one son had been living with her for 30 years. Remember what happened to him? His sister came in, became the guardian, conservator, took over the estate, sold mom's house, evicted her brother, and he's out in the street. Doesn't make any sense, does it? All we have to do is be proactive, get things done, and we can sleep better at night. I'm going to take a break for a minute. I'll be right back.
Are you in legal trouble? Are you in need of legal advice? Or just have general legal questions? Call 1-800-529-8721. That's 1-800-LAW-USA1. And watch Law Power Hour and get your questions answered by experienced attorneys who are experts in their field. That's Law Power Hour, hosted by Barry Keller, attorney at law. Saturdays at 10 a.m. here on WHPR, Detroit Live.
You know, one of the most important areas that we deal with is the landlord-tenant area. And it brings to mind a number of issues that come up, especially in the wintertime. You're renting, and the landlord doesn't fix the furnace. And you go without heat for 2 months, and you try and survive. And you run the risk of burning the house down or killing yourself if you're using the stove. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Would you give me the address where the workshop will be held on November 17th?
It's next to the Little Rock Baptist Church. It's right down on Woodward before the Boulevard. You'll see a sign there that says Clear University. It's a Considine Center.
All right. Thank you.
And we hope you show up and bring your friends, because we're there to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that 100 times over there. We're there to serve you and give you information.
Well, I'm thankful for that.
Okay, it's not a bait and switch where you come down, we serve you, and then say, okay, here's my card, come on to my office and bring $500. I don't want that. I want people to be served.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Now, here's what's really important about this landlord-tenant situation. Big apartment complexes do it. Small property owners do it. They all have problems, and they don't take care of them. The tenants suffer. Whether there's a leak in the ceiling and the roof caves in from the tenant upstairs, and you're in the bathroom at the sink, and all of a sudden the roof falls on top of your head. Well, you've got two issues there. You've got a maintenance issue there, and you've got a lawsuit. Or if the landlord has trouble with the furnace and doesn't fix the furnace, what do? You don't stop paying the rent. The first thing you do is you pay the rent in to an escrow account, and you tell the landlord that you're not paying the rent in writing and why you're not paying the rent. So if the landlord takes you to court, you've got proof of why you're not paying the rent and where the money is in the escrow account. If you don't put the money in the escrow account, you run the risk of being evicted. Now, if you come down and you're having this kind of problem, we'll tell you how to handle it. Or, if you're renting with an option to buy, and you did not have legal representation when you rented with the option to buy, you ought to bring down that rent with the option to buy agreement, and we'll review it and tell you whether it's worth the paper that it's printed on and what the conditions are. A couple weeks ago, a lady came to me. She had a Section 8 house that she was renting, and the landlord said, if you make all of these repairs in 5 years, I'll turn the house over to you. So I said, where's the written document? There's no written document. So we prepared a contract for her. So that at the end of the 5 years, if she makes the repairs, if she stays in the house, whether it's a repair to the sidewalk, repair to the roof, repair to the furnace, the toilet, the sink, it's going to become her home. If you need repairs on your house, this always happens, and you want to know what you should be looking at for when you have the repairs done, come down. We'll explain to you what the law is. If you hire an unlicensed contractor, you don't have to pay for the repairs. You can go to the Department of Licensing and Regulation and turn that person in, and they will get fined. It's even a crime for an unlicensed contractor to take money for doing repair work without having a license. If the person has a license, we'll explain to you how to pay that person and how to deal with any dispute related to that property so that you're protected. These are the kinds of subjects that we're going to talk about, and this is the kind of information that we're going to provide. There's literally if you take the cumulative total of all the years of experience of all the lawyers that are going to be there, you've got a couple hundred years of legal experience. But in terms of practitioners, the majority of the practitioners have practiced 20 years or more in their particular field, and they have expertise in their field to assist you with your legal problems. And that's what we're going to offer at this program. So, like the nice lady who asked where we're located, I'm telling you it's easier to say that we're next to the Little Rock Baptist Church. We're about 6 blocks up from the boulevard. It's Cleary University, Considine Center. If you Google it up, you'll find us. We'll be there. We're going to offer all this information. Now I've got to shift gears with you for a minute this morning because I need you to get out and vote. I don't care who you vote for. I'm not going to give any testimony for any particular candidate because that's your choice. But we need you to vote. It's really important. There's some issues on the ballot, like the gerrymandering issue, that have to be dealt with. Gerrymandering has to do with districts, congressional districts. And the idea is to redefine the districts. I mean, in my district, it goes all the way from Berkeley all the way out to Brighton in a scattered manner. It doesn't make sense how people in Brighton and people in South Oakland County could have the same needs and issues in common for a congressperson to represent them. And that's what we're going to deal with in the gerrymandering issue on the ballot. So we need you to get out and vote. And if you can't get out and vote, today is the last day to go down and vote with an absentee ballot. But you need to vote. If you're not registered to vote, you can go register to vote when you go down to vote. If you're a convicted felon If you're a convicted felon in the state of Michigan, you have a right to vote. Let's not be lazy in this election. Let's vote. Let's make a difference by voting. Regardless of who you vote for, you don't have to vote straight ticket now. Only in the primary you had to vote if you're a Democrat, Democratic all the way down. If you're a Republican, all the way down. In this election, you can vote for whoever you want for whatever reason. You choose to vote for that person. I've had a number of candidates on the show, and the majority of those candidates on the show have been on the show to demonstrate that there's a section of the ballot that no one ever pays attention to. It's the nonpartisan section of the ballot. It's the judiciary. It's the people running to serve us as judges and jurists, whether it's in the district court, in the circuit court, in the 36th district court, or the Michigan Supreme Court. It's the nonpartisan section of the ballot. What I'm going to say, and I'm going to say this in truth, is God is my judge. The most important part of the ballot to vote for, in addition to voting for a congressperson or a representative, is the nonpartisan part of the ballot. Because that's where you're going to have the most impact and you're going to get the most benefit. What grinds my gears, what really upsets me, is that we've got some people sitting up there on the bench who forget where they came from. I was in court in the 36th District Court, and I have to tell you this. I'm not going to give you the name of the judge, but it really, really aggravated me. Man comes into court, and they brought him in on a 1979 outstanding warrant. Listen to this. Almost 40 years ago, for marijuana. Sale with intent to deliver. So he's got a court-appointed lawyer there, and the judge is up there. And the judge looks at the man, and you know the judge has already had an opportunity to look at the file. Remember this, he knew it was almost 40 years ago. So this is what the judge says to the man. Sir, this is my court. Do you understand that you're supposed to be dressed to come into my court? You can't come in here with a pair of sweatpants and a camouflage jacket. You got to be dressed like a gentleman when you come into my court. I was so angry because this man was charged 40 years ago. You know that he was in his 60s. You know that if he's in his 60s or maybe in his early 70s, that he may have served in Vietnam or Desert Storm. You know maybe that he has some problems because this is all he can afford to wear. It's not what you wear to court, it's the respect that you have for the court. And we don't want jurists on the court who have no respect for the citizens that put them in office. And this is what's important to me. You don't want people sitting on the bench who are going to be disrespectful to the people that come into court. We're all the same. As I tell people, there's no difference between you and me except the fact that I have an education. And that's the only difference. But other than that, you're entitled to the same respect that I expect you to give me when you come into my office or when you talk to me as a citizen. It's all about respect. And this is why you have to get out and you have to vote and you have to make a difference, because we don't want people sitting on the bench who are disrespectful of the people who put them in office. We want people sitting on the bench who deserve to be respected and who respect the people, or at least understand the people that are coming in front of them. There are some district courts in Wayne County where jurists have total disregard and lack of respect for the constituents, lack of respect for the constituents in their communities who put them on the bench. And they don't treat them even-handedly. They're making judgments based upon people's looks, people's appearance, the way people communicate. That's not the way you do it. And this is why it's important for you to get out and vote. Your vote counts if you do this. It'll make a difference for yourself, for your family. I can't understand in some communities, because of your color, there's a difference between having a $2,500 bond and a $25,000 bond. Go figure. Do I need to draw you a picture? Does it make any sense for the same charge? One person should have $2,500 and the other person $25,000. We're all entitled to the same protection under the Constitution. And you're not going to get that protection unless you go out and vote. And I'm really serious about this. I'm serious about all these issues, about protecting yourself, protecting your rights, and having your rights protected at the same time. It's just unreasonable. And then another thing that really upset me is that people are being overcharged. If you commit a crime, charge the person with the crime that they've committed. Don't charge them with 5 other crimes under it. So it's like pinning the tail on the donkey, that if you don't get lucky at the first charge, you're going to get one of the other charges so that you nick the person and now they have a criminal record. Charge them correctly or don't charge them at all. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Are you in legal trouble? Are you in need of legal advice? Or just have general legal questions? Call 1-800-529-8721. That's 1-800-LAW-USA1. And watch Law Power Hour and get your questions answered by experienced attorneys who are experts in their field. That's Law Power Hour, hosted by Barry Keller, attorney at law. Saturdays at 10 a.m. here on WHPR Detroit Live.
On this ballot, the marijuana issue is going to come up. And it looks like it's going to pass. That's according to the polls, according to the newspaper, according to all the articles I've read. And what's important about passing that is not, quote unquote, that the state's going to make a lot of money and it's going to go for education, because I think that's a bunch of poppycock. The money goes wherever the state wants it to go. They'll tell you it's going for education, just like they said the lottery money is going to go for education, but you know where it went. Helped underwrite bond issues for projects in the city of Detroit and Grand Rapids and other places. I don't want to get into that in great detail because that's not my gig up here. Mine is to talk to you about the law. But if the marijuana bill passes, it doesn't give you a pass to drive under the influence of marijuana. There are a few tests that law enforcement can force you to take if you get stopped and they think you're driving under the influence of narcotics. And if you don't consent to those tests, then they're going to suspend your license, because driving is a privilege. And part of that privilege is an implied consent. You impliedly consent to follow particular procedures. You impliedly consent that if you get stopped and law enforcement feels that you're under the influence of narcotics, that they can take you in and draw blood and send it out to the lab and have it tested. And if you're positive for driving under the influence of drugs, you're going to be charged the same as driving under the influence of alcohol. And you're going to have your license suspended or revoked. So the idea is, if you're going to indulge, don't get behind the wheel of a car, because you're not going to have a pass on that. You're going to get convicted of driving under the influence of narcotics. And believe me, as sure as I sit here, and as sure as God made little green apples on this earth, if you get convicted of driving under the influence of drugs, you are going to be drug tested every week during the entire period of your probation. You're going to be drug tested during the entire period that your case is pending. They're going to set a baseline, and they're going to see if you're sloping down every week, if you're under the influence of drugs. And it's going to impact upon your insurance, your driving privileges, and could eventually impact upon your ability to maintain employment. Likewise, if you're at work and you're injured, and you're smoking marijuana regularly at home, and you've got to go to the clinic and drop, your employer can fire you. Your employer can fire you for being under the influence of narcotics at work, and this is a defense. This is a defense available to the employer to shield the employer from paying you workers' disability compensation benefits. This may work as a defense to your right to receive unemployment compensation. And people say, well, why should I be precluded from receiving these benefits if I'm smoking marijuana or I'm drinking and it has no impact upon my work? Because you have voluntarily chosen to do this. You have voluntarily chosen to make these decisions. And in making these decisions, you have voluntarily put yourself in a position where you can lose your job. Well, we know the marijuana bill is going to pass. We know that it's going to bring in a lot of income. We know that there's going to be an issue about younger people using drugs. And we also know that it's going to create more work for lawyers, because there are going to be more problems that have to be untangled because of drug-related offenses. So the idea is, if you're going to smoke, you know what's going to be in your system for 40 days. It must really be important. Or go ahead and get a medical marijuana card. At least protect yourself by having a medical marijuana card and telling your employer that you have a medical marijuana card and getting a letter from the doctor explaining why you need a medical marijuana card. so that you don't lose your job and you can continue to be employed. You know, marijuana, according to a lot of the information, or the oils from marijuana, have a lot of positive effects for people. I'm not a scientist in this area, and I'm not going to advocate one way or the other. I just want you to know that we need this protection, and you need to protect yourself. You need to make sure that your families protect themselves, your children protect themselves. It can cost you a lot of programs that are available for people who can't afford programs. It can cost you housing, it can cost you jobs, cost you your driver's license. And it's just not worth it. So follow some advice. If you're going to smoke marijuana, get a medical marijuana card. This is my advice. And let the people who need to know that you have a medical marijuana card, let them know that you've got the card and why you have it. They've got to protect you under HIPAA. In other words, if you go into your employer and you explain to your employer with medical evidence why you need the card, and you can do your job, but you need the card, maybe you have anxiety and you take marijuana because it helps with your anxiety. I honestly don't know the answer to all of these questions, but you certainly can find out. Under HIPAA, they can't go around and share that information. But let's get to the flip side. Let's say you don't tell anybody. You get hurt at work, you've got to go to the clinic. You're at the clinic for 28 days. They draw your blood. Are you doing urinalysis? You're off work, so you decide to indulge yourself, smoke a few joints. You come up positive. You get a letter from your employer that you've been terminated. You lost your job, lost your benefits, lost your means of support for yourself and for your family. It's like running into a brick wall. There's absolutely no reason for you to do this. So prevent and protect. So prevent and protect means you're going to show up at the Considine Center on November the 17th, 2018 from 11 to 4. And we're going to provide you with a host of legal information. Or if you just want to come down and say hello, we'd love to see you. But we want to share with you. We want to answer all of your questions. And believe it or not, everybody's got a legal question. They just don't want to take the time to get the answer to it. Even today, I was researching some law this morning because I want some legal information on copyright law. And I was seeking out different copyright lawyers because I was curious about the information that I needed to possess to make a decision. So I need lawyers to give me advice, just like you need lawyers to give you advice. On that note, remember what I said. Don't forget to vote. I won't be here next week. Dr. Holly's going to take my third hour, so I'll be here after the election. I wish you all the best. Hope you have a good week. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.